Asmongold, the bedroom Twitch streamer extraordinaire, recently had some blowback for his racist, anti-Palestinian comments. I will put a quote up on the screen for you to read and see for yourself, because I do not want this video to immediately be taken down or reported for hate speech, because this is something that happened to another YouTuber, Bad Empanada. This is super racist in a number of ways. His first comment about having genocide baked into the laws is just straight up Islamophobia. He called them terrible people, basically saying that they deserve to be genocided, that it is because of their inferior culture, quote unquote, that they are being blown up by US and Israeli bombs. This is in fact racial, fascist, victim blaming. It's like blaming the Jews for the Holocaust carried out by the Nazis. Not all Muslims are warmongers. I can't believe I have to even say that. Not all Christians are warmongers, though I would forgive you for being less generous on that point, considering the domination of Western imperialism using Christianity as its ideological cudgel, and critically, not all Jews are warmongers. It is specific fractions of classes that utilize these ideologies for warmongering and justifying the killing of people from other groups, i.e., Israel using American-made weapons and bombs to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, in this case. Israel wants you to think that they are the be-all end-all of Judaism, when in fact they are an ethno-state weaponizing a religion for the sake of settler colonialism, backed by NATO and the US. Also, did we just forget about the Crusades or something? Literally using the Lord's name in vain to wage war of conquest over an economically vital piece of land such as Jerusalem. It seems like this level of colonial activity has been going on for a long time. Now, just because Palestinians are from a different culture, from Asmongold's white settler colonial culture, i.e. white American culture, doesn't automatically make it inferior in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I would say that the opposite is true. The oppressed have an inalienable right to defend themselves from an occupier and apartheid state. This should be obvious. What Asmongold is saying here is pure Western settler colonial ideology. It is pure ideology. European culture is built off of racial and working class oppression and exploitation. I mean, what are the Western values he could be referring to here exactly? The enslavement of Africans for the sake of colonial expansion of capitalism? That capitalism is fundamentally righteous? That white Eurocentrism and by extension American exceptionalism are better than every other culture in the world? Specifically Islamic, Palestinian, or Arabic culture that he is referring to here? Liberal ideology uses terms like these to mask the barbarity of Western imperialism. His point of view also stems from the fact that he lives in such an insulated bubble of cultural whiteness, ironically shielded by his use of identity politics, not to mention the effects of living in a chronically online cultural sphere filled to the brim with fascist echo chambers. His claims of Islamic/Arabic law being homophobic and genocidal in its built-in nature falls apart and does not seem so legitimate when numerous exceptions exist all over the world, or when that same criticism can be directed inwards to his own culture, one of imperial domination and capitalist hegemony, that of patriarchal white supremacy. Fascists, like Asmongold, will obfuscate their views behind liberalism because in reality, they're not actually too far apart from one another and are in fact twin brothers. This is something I've discussed in multiple videos, such as my video about D'Angelo and his lukewarm liberal analysis of Chappell Roan's words on the Democrats and Republicans, as well as my video going over the whole year of genocide in Palestine. Please check them out. Asmongold says that it is an inferior culture in all ways. This is classic racist nationalist chauvinism. Believing in one's own identity, ethnicity, nationality, or race or whatever is fundamentally better than everyone else, that all others are inferior. The Nazis famously stood for upholding quote-unquote Western values. It is a blatant fascist talking point. He says he doesn't feel bad for the Palestinians. He doesn't feel sorry for them. He doesn't care, and he doesn't support them. This is absurdly ghoulish for a number of reasons that I hope should be painfully obvious to anyone who has any degree of humanity left in them. These beliefs are rooted in racist, fascist ideology. This is also extremely typical for Western liberals because for them, the genocide is not even a factor in whether they will support a candidate or not at this point. As long as they appeal to their identity politics, all else is sidelined. I am honestly convinced that liberals at this point completely support the genocide. I mean, Asmongold seems totally fine with it. He seems to think that they're getting exactly what they deserve or some such nonsense. There's a major problem with people like Asmongold continuing to have a platform where they are able to spew this kind of hate and filth to a massive audience. one that definitely agrees with him to one degree or another. This level of hate speech only gets him a temporary ban of 14 days. And it's only for one of his accounts. He has multiple. Why did he not get permabanned on every possible account that he could have? Twitch, what are you doing? This is perhaps indicative of a larger problem that Twitch, much like Twitter or X, Meta, or even YouTube, have a marked lack of incentive to regulate the contents of creators such as Asmongold who spew forth blatant racist, fascist talking points. That Zionism is enshrined, cannot be criticized without accusations of anti-Semitism being weaponized against people who oppose the genocidal actions of the terrorist state of Israel or the United States. That left-leaning creators are much more likely to be shadow banned, suppressed, or outright censored for their views. People who are fundamentally against the inhumane actions of the United States and Israel. Ban Empanada, again, for example, had his video mass reported by Asmongold fans according to his video discussing the hate speech strike on his video. He even tried to repeal it, and YouTube upheld their decision. That even criticism of hate speech somehow constitutes hate speech? That criticism will be stricken down, but not the original clip. While I was searching for the original clip, I even found one claiming to give further context to what Asmongold said, and somehow in the uploader's eyes, legitimized the awful things that he said. It is absolutely unserious. This is what he said. This is couching his Western imperial chauvinism in liberal identity politics. He cannot even fathom the material conditions that lead a society to eventually develop these more modern progressive conceptions of sex and gender when the population is not currently experiencing a war of extermination, a genocide, that the sharpening crises of capitalism causing further imperialist wars to escalate, that the conditions inflicted upon these occupied peoples is a direct result of Western cultural imperialism and economic political domination. And saying that if the Palestinians were the ones in power, that they would be the ones doing the genociding is the same sort of argument as the Great Replacement or reverse racism or something stupid like that. The fact that Palestinians, Muslims, and native Arab Jews already existed in the country before the Balfour Declaration set up by the British and before the settler colonial invasion of Zionists shows a giant flaw in this line of thinking. This reverse genocide, quote-unquote, argument is blatantly idiotic and false, and only reveals that Asmongold understands that this genocide is occurring and that it's wrong, and shares the fear that these occupied peoples would attempt to do the same thing were they given the opportunity. It's falsely equivocating resistance, a moral necessity against colonizers, with the crimes of the occupying force, which is just so unbelievably stupid. He came out with an apology, quote-unquote, not too long after his temporary ban and backlash, showing to everyone that really the only thing that mattered to him was the fact that his bottom line, his profits, were being threatened over his blatant anti-Palestinian racism. Suddenly, when there are minimal consequences for his words and actions, is there any attempt to save face and revoke the god-awful things he said? And not too long after this, he was already in his Reddit community talking about how he was going to be reacting to DEI in gaming soon. He has not seen the light. He has not changed his views. He's still a fascist gamer bro who knows what his audience likes, and it's frankly embarrassing. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and liking and leaving a comment. It really helps me out and it helps boost the channel further. I'm really trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers here. It's really important to me, and this is kind of a big milestone for me, having gotten this far. Again, thank you guys for listening and taking the time to watch my videos. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.